Hey everyone, Brian here with Honest Mechanic. Today I want to tackle a common question I get from Toyota owners. Who actually makes the brake pads for Toyota vehicles? I'll explain which manufacturers supply the brake pads to Toyota and whether you should choose OEM or aftermarket brake pads for your Toyota. Toyota works with multiple brake pad suppliers. The first key thing to understand is that Toyota works with multiple brake pad manufacturers. They don't produce brake pads in-house. The most common brake pad suppliers for Toyota include Akebono, Advix, and Nisshinbo, but it varies depending on the vehicle model and year. Toyota puts out regular requests for bids to brake pad manufacturers. Whichever company can meet Toyota's specifications and price targets wins the bid and gets to produce brake pads for certain Toyota models that year. For example, I pulled some brake pads off a 2018 Toyota Camry. The front brake pads were made by Akebono, while the rear pads were made by Advix. On certain trucks like the Toyota Tacoma, you often see Nisshinbo or Advix brake pads, so it's hard to pinpoint one single manufacturer for all Toyota brake pads. Unlike other parts, brake pads utilize multiple suppliers. Now you might be wondering, if companies like Akebono also sell aftermarket brake pads, why not just buy the cheaper aftermarket version? Here's why I always recommend using original equipment manufacturer, OEM, brake pads from Toyota for most drivers. First, OEM brake pads are designed specifically for your vehicle. The pad, compound, and design accounts for the type of rotors, calipers, and brake system components on your car. This sizing, spacing, and formulation leads to even pad wear, optimal stopping power, and reduced noise compared to aftermarket pads. Second, you don't have to worry about compatibility issues between pads and rotors when using OEM. Sometimes aftermarket pads are too abrasive, which causes accelerated rotor wear. Or the pads transfer material unevenly to the rotor surface, resulting in thickness variation and brake pulsation over time. Sticking with OEM brake pads avoids these problems. The bottom line is that OEM brake pads deliver the stopping power and longevity that Toyota engineers intended for your vehicle. For all but the most demanding drivers, OEM brake pads are the way to go, in my experience. Now, I'll admit, there are some cases when using an aftermarket brake pad instead of OEM makes sense. If you're installing high-performance brake kits with drilled/slotted rotors and multi-piston calipers, you'll want a more aggressive brake pad compound to handle repeated heavy braking. Brands like Hawk Performance and EBC offer brake pads better suited for the racetrack. I'll also add that if cost is your main concern, you can find quality aftermarket brake pads for less than OEM. Just be very selective about which brand and compound you choose, and make sure to read reviews from other owners first. I recommend premium brands like Wagner and Raybestos if you want to save money over OEM brake pads without sacrificing too much. All right, guys, that wraps up this overview on who supplies brake pads to Toyota and my take on OEM versus aftermarket brake pads. Remember, it's always smart to inspect your brake pads during routine service intervals to check thickness and even wear.